Everybody, welcome back to another daily drop here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. A Saturday drop. Don't do a lot of Saturday drops, but fall camp going on. There's so much to talk about. We're going to maybe roll about 6 videos out a week talking about the Tar Heels until we get in game weeks. We've got a couple more weeks to go. In fact, I guess as of Saturday, 2 weeks and 5 days. So we're under the 3-week mark before the Tar Heels and Golden Gophers kick off up at Huntington Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. Looking forward to getting up there. I have been to Minnesota, sort of. I've not really done much up there, so I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing this football team, and I'm looking forward to seeing this defense. When you have a new defensive coordinator like North Carolina does, and when there's a pretty dramatic change in approach, when you're going from bend but don't break to a far more aggressive approach, there's a lot of anticipation for what we might see. And because of that, there's a lot of questions asked about the freedom on defense, about the aggressiveness on defense, about the chaos, about how they're disguising things a lot. How does that affect communication and all that? So the storylines on the defensive side of the ball, as much as offensive side has some interesting ones, the storylines on defense are just in abundance. There's so many of them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm narrowing it down to 3. I'm narrowing it down to 3 things. Otherwise, this would be the longest drop in human history, and I don't think we want that because I'd be here for like 3 days. I'd miss the Orioles game. Don't want to miss the Orioles game tonight. All right. So I'm going to get into defensive line. I'm going to get into Caleb Costett's star, and I'm also going to get into press coverage. A lot of talk about press coverage since, I guess, last Saturday, or even into last week when we talked to Marcus Allen. A lot of stuff on press coverage, so I'll get into that here in a minute as well. Before I get into any of those 3 things, very quick reminder, guys, I'm in my 11th year running this site now. I took over August 1st, 2014. It was $8.33 a month for a 1-year subscription that day. It is still $8.33 a month for a 1-year subscription. We're talking not even a drive-through meal. You guys know the prices. I went to the market with my wife the other day. It's unbelievable. We spent like $421. And I swear to you, 5 years ago, it would have been $200. It's out of control. But we're not. And we have no plans on changing our price anytime soon. So for just $8.33 a month, you get a ton of our content. You get all of our content, access to our message boards, which is a phenomenal place to hang out. You can be with like-minded, passionate, knowledgeable Carolina fans. There's a difference between knowledgeable ones and ones that don't know how to spell the players' names. That's not the case on our boards. And you just get a ton of information. Remember, guys, we go where the Tar Heels go. In fact, earlier today, I went ahead and got my trip to Kansas for the basketball game. I go everywhere they go. Unless there's a conflict, I go everywhere they go. We bring you that kind of insight to the program. And it's only $8.33 a month. All right, the 3 things. Let's get into the defensive line. Jeff Collins says they could play 10. Now, I'm having a hard time finding the 10th guy. Maybe they're going to put one of the true freshmen out there and give them some reps, say the heck with it, we got to roll, because they got some older guys. Kevin Hester will be gone after this year. Jacoby Cowan will be gone after this year. Ritzy possibly gone after this year. Joshua Harris will be gone after this year. Des Evans will be gone after this year. So they're going to need to replenish that line. So giving Peter Pizanski and Leroy Jackson a few reps wouldn't be such a bad thing, provided that they can help and provided that they're beneficial reps. If they're just getting wiped off the line of scrimmage, that's not going to help them. So it will be very interesting to see by the time they get into October if either of those 2 are getting any kind of reps whatsoever, like a 3rd-tier roll-in of the defensive front. That will be very interesting to watch play out. Now, they do have 9, certainly 7 that will be in a rotation in some capacity. That's Kevin Hester, Cowan, Ritzy, Harris, Travis Shaw. I think Des Evans and Bo Atkinson. I think Rodney Laura is probably going to be in there. He looked really good when I saw him in practice the other day, and his name has come up a lot. Same with Joel Starlings. And what's interesting about those 2 is back in the spring, Max, like early on in spring, like, hey, we kind of thought this was another year of development for those guys, and they were still a year plus away from getting on the field. But they made such a positive push in the spring and have continued that through the summer and now into fall camp that it's reasonable to expect that both Laura and Starlings are going to get some kind of consistent reps in games. Now, they may only play 6 or 8 snaps, but those 6 or 8 snaps spell somebody else, and it's valuable playing time for them. So I think that there's a chance this group could go 9 deep. And this is not including Cameron Rucker at defensive end. He's the rush. He's a defensive end. He does a lot of drills with those guys, but I like to even just call that the Cameron Rucker position. And you might see Evans and Atkinson sometimes drop back into a modified Cameron Rucker position role at times, depending on what the situation is. One of the things I really like about this group is that the aggressiveness with which Jeff Collins wants his unit to play has really helped or enabled a couple of guys to sort of step forward. Jacoby Cowan didn't do anything in the spring. If it wasn't for Caleb Koss, he would be the story on that side of the ball fall camp to me. Everyone's talking about it. When I've seen them, he's looked really good. He's looked different. He's looked like a guy that could get down there with the first unit, with the blue team, and create some problems. And they need guys like that. And in fact, you could say that it appears from my vantage point that maybe he's in the process of leapfrogging a couple of guys, which wouldn't be such a bad thing. I also think that Kevin Hester, who kind of didn't have as good a year last year as he did the year before, I think he's ready to have a consistent, very mature year. It's his 6th year in school. Joshua Harris is a guy that, A, eats blockers, and B, is deceptively quick. Some of the dudes have said that he is really quick off the ball. In fact, we talked to Austin Blasky, the Georgia transfer, and he's a starting center. We talked to him Wednesday, and he was asked about Joshua Harris, and he said the dude is just super quick. I mean, he's a load, and he's hard to move. He's playing at 350. They want him at 340. But he said that he's on his hip. Like his job was almost take out the center, chip out the center, not let him get anybody. And I don't want to get into all the details because a lot of people don't understand it and it would bore them. But he said that Harris was causing him a lot of problems. And every time he looked at the left ear hole, the right ear hole, he was there. So he's going to play some. He's going to play more at North Carolina than he did at Ole Miss. North Carolina has that need. And I think he's a good pickup. They just got him a couple months ago. Travis Shaw, not hearing his name as much this month as here in fall camp as we did in the spring, as we did in the summer. But Travis will play. He will be in that rotation. And, of course, they're outstanding at end. Bo Atkinson and Des Evans are both set on the record. We want to be on the field at the same time, because that would be nasty. They could both get after the quarterback. The expectation from within is that Bo Atkinson could explode this season and have a massive, massive year. So I think 7 deep for sure. 9 deep is probable. 10 deep is going to be hard if you're going to get one of those true freshmen in there. But I think that the numbers and the distribution of playing time will make this a better line. Last year when Georgia Tech ran for 240 yards or whatever it was in the fourth quarter against a worn-down defense on Halloween or the night before Halloween, I mean, I'm not going to say teams aren't going to run the ball down Carolina's throat, but being tired and worn out and not conditioned properly for that part of the game won't be the issue this year. I just don't see that happening. Caleb Koss is the story on defense in fall camp to me. Baseball player, football player, he started the ball game, didn't play much before that. And he played on the baseball Tar Heels, only practiced 3 times, spent time around the program, but there were NCAA limitations with the amount of hours he could spend around sports, which is a stupid, stupid rule. The NCAA, and we'll get into that another time. I've defended the NCAA a lot over the years, but I've also ripped them too. In Caleb Koss' case, he made the most of it. He studied film. He studied the playbook. When he got a little banged up in baseball, and when he hit the ground running this summer in OTAs, PLPs, he was ready to roll. He steps into the beginning of fall camp as if he was in spring practice, and everyone is impressed by his smarts, how his baseball skills help him at the star position. Jeff Collins described it as he can track a ball and snatch it out of the air, which I thought was an interesting way because you're thinking about a center fielder tracking a ball and getting it, at the warning track before he kind of collides into the wall. That's the image that I had in my mind when Jeff Collins said that. Caleb, the role at star fits him. He's sort of I'm not going to call it a light rover from the old days, but there's some elements of that. There's some linebacker elements. There's some safety elements. There's covering guys in slot in a press coverage manner elements, although the slot guys aren't at the line of scrimmage, but he could play up close. And it's going to be very interesting to see how he or whoever's in slot defends when the corners are in press coverage, which is something I'm going to talk about here in a minute. So he checks all the boxes, and he's done so well that they have comfortably moved DeAndre Boykins back to safety. Remember, Boykins was the star 2 years ago, played really well, missed last season with an injury, but he's back at safety now. They feel very comfortable about Cost and about Ty Adams and that room right there with the stars, particularly Cost, that they're in very good shape there. So Caleb Cost, baseball player, going to get it done on the football field. Hopefully we get a chance to talk to him before the season starts because I think he's got an interesting story. Love to be able to tell it. Love for you guys to be able to hear from him. But he's definitely somebody to watch when they're in Minnesota that night. Say, okay, here's a young guy on a defense with a bunch of old guys. How's he going to respond? That'll be interesting. Last thing is press coverage. It's been a very big topic the last week or so. Actually, week plus. It started when we talked to Marcus Allen, and he boasted, he was very proud of adding 11 pounds. He's already long at 6'2" with a longer wingspan, and he says he's more physical now. It has to be because of the press coverage. And to quote him, the press coverage is to, quote, knock them off their landmark, end quote, meaning the receivers. You disrupt the route before they get into the route. And I think this is going to be fascinating because the term limiting easy access throws has been thrown around a lot. One of the things that Carolina fans, I can go back to our Twitter feed, people taking pictures from TV and sending it to us, how far the corners were off from the line of scrimmage of a 3rd and 8. And you little quick little easy access throw, 4 or 5 yards easy, make a move, boom, first down. 3rd and 5, same thing. So you're not going to see that as much. You're going to see more press coverage this year. I want to know how much. We're not going to really know for sure until we see this team play. But they're talking it, and they're talking it. And when you talk it this much, if they don't do it, then we're going to ask why you didn't do it. It's just like with the offensive line. Matt keeps talking about how they're going to be so much better. Well, if they're not, then we have to ask that question. What are you not seeing in games that you thought you'd see in games? The same thing here with the press coverage, because I think this is as much a part of their DNA and the defense this year, at least based on what we're told and some stuff we've seen in practice, as much as the chaos and blitzing. The narrative in the spring and even in the summer, even at the outset of fall camp, was blitzing and chaos and disguising stuff. I think the press coverage and not allowing the easy access throws, I think that's the heart of it. That, to me, is the aggressiveness that is not chaotic that they want to employ. They want better tackling from the secondaries. They want all these other things. But to be the initiator on defense with the press coverage is going to be a really interesting thing to see. And we're going to chart it. And it'll be something that we definitely talk about late Thursday night after the Minnesota game, on to the next day, and once the season gets rolling with the games. If they can do it and they excel, and they believe they can with guys like Marcus Allen and Elijah Huzzie there, 2 players who are on NFL radars, then the rest of the stuff that you heard about the defense has a better chance of taking place. Of course, the guys up front have to generate a conventional pass rush as well. And by the way, I'm going to sidebar very quickly. I saw a ton of technique and fundamental stuff at practice the other day. And that's something that after practice, when we spoke with Jeff Collins, he talked about, hey, lots of drills, lots of technique. And then we got Kevin Hester, lots of technique. Asked him how he's better because Ted Monachino identified things that needed to improve, and he just goes technique, 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 as if to say the technique wasn't good enough before. You can have a great motor, but if your technique is not that great, then you're not going to be as successful. So they're talking technique. Guys up front with the pass rush, with their gaps. And I laugh because the term about the description about Joshua Harris eating blockers, someone said the other day, I can't remember who it was, it may have been Hester, said he's going to give Power Echols a whole lot of tackles. So he'll have like an asterisk next to a bunch of Power's tackles because he'll eat blockers and allow Power to eat up that gap himself. So that in the press coverage, it's going to be very interesting to see all this stuff play itself out. And Caleb, of course, I can't wait to watch him play. I'm going to do another drop of talking about just how fun this fall camp has been. A lot of times fall camp can get stale and old fast. Usually by this point, it hasn't done so yet for me. I don't know about the rest of the media. I don't know about fans, but it hasn't done so for me because there are so many storylines. And there's also a lot of unknown. There's unknown all around this team. There's unknown how Caleb Cost will play. There's unknown, who steps up and becomes excellent in the interior of that defensive line. There's an unknown whether they can execute the press coverage or not. But it's cool that they're going to try it. And it's cool that we have these things to look at from a journalistic standpoint and from an appreciation of football standpoint. And I would think for you guys as fans, you're hearing different stuff. I mean, there might be a hint of optimism that things defensively will be different in Chapel Hill than they've been in quite some time, because for the large part, it's been pretty awful. Statistics do not lie, neither do results. If there's anything else that highly intrigues you about this side of the ball, let us know what it is. If there's anything that you haven't heard that much about that you want to hear more about, let us know. We have a lot of access. I got Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I'm going to be over there this week asking questions. So let us know. Let us know what else you would like to hear more about. If there's a player or an aspect to the scheme or anything else, we're more than happy to, if it fits, to go ahead and take it up and ask someone about it and give you guys some information here on one of these podcasts or at TarHeelIllustrated.com, which, a reminder, just $8.33 a month, you can be a Tar Heel Insider too. Go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, hit the notification bell so you get updates every time we upload, and share this with your friends. Let them know we are here. I'm AJ, and I appreciate you stopping by.